Hi and welcome to The Winning Factor. I'm Alan Aitken, and on this show each week we try and identify the key element of an upcoming race in Hong Kong that might be the way to lead us into the winner. Well, we're back for the new season, and although horses in Hong Kong don't go out into the paddock and stand around eating and getting fat during their break, there is still a fitness angle to racing at the start of the season in Hong Kong. And before we go on to our individual races, we're just going to take a general look at that. Now, first of all, here's a graphic for when horses have had their prior run before resuming for the new season. And you'll see here that a large proportion of the winners on, let's say, the first month of the season have had a run in June or July, and more particularly in July. Around 76% have run in one of those 2 months, and about 50% of the winners in September will have had their last start in July. So it's a pretty significant statistic. It's not entirely helpful to us from a punting point of view, because a large proportion of the horses which run on these days, and particularly on opening day, will have had a race in July. So it's not that helpful. It only gives us a shortcut to some who might be less likely to win. But now we're going to have a look at a more usable factor, and that is how trainers behave at the start of the season. And there is more consistency and substance to this graphic. Now, if you have a look here, we have, just to explain this layout, these are the 10-year records, the past 10 seasons for these trainers over the first 145 days of the season, or 145 races rather. That takes in the first 2 months, and from the beginning of November we see a bigger influence from, say, a trainer like John Size, who's quiet early in the season and then builds up. So we're looking for the trainers who are consistently to the fore in the early stages of the season. And if you look here, their average winners for the first 145 races are on the right hand side, and the main trainers most seasons are guys like Mi Choi, Tony Cruz, Casper Founds and Danny Shum. They are to the fore nearly every season, and I've highlighted the trainers who in those first 145 races of these seasons have had double figure wins. And you'll see up the top there those trainers that I've mentioned. Now, we do also have two fairly new trainers. We're not sure about whether they'll continue this trend, Jimmy Ting and Frankie Law, but they have been prominent early in their seasons that we've seen to date. So that gives us some sort of a look at what we may be on the search for early in the season. And so to Sunday's races, and the first we're going to look at is in fact the first race of the new season, and our winning factor here, the jockey. Now, this is only a relatively small field here, 9 runners, and not many that you could actually drop out of the race as winning prospects. I think the major players are Gold Velvet, the first ride for Lyle Hewitson, Douglas White's first runner as a trainer, Le Panache, Good Runner's Way, Regency Gem, and the lightly weighted Romantic Journey, all with chances. It doesn't end there particularly, but they're the main ones as far as I can see. Now, Danny Shum was highlighted in that list of trainers who have their runners to the fore and running well early in the season, and it seems only appropriate then that for the first race of the new season we take a closer look at Shum's runner, Good Runner's Way. Now, we saw him at the end of last term. He dropped down to Class 5 and he found his form, closing off with 2 good efforts. First of all, running on strongly into second in race 741 over the Sha Tin 1600 metres. And then we saw him again over 1800 metres in race 807 on the final day of the season. This was a very strongly run 1800 metre race, and I think his stamina might just have been found out over the final stages going up to the new distance. But I think the key to Good Runner's Way here is having Zac Purton on board in a race where, I'll be frank, anyone's guess as to how it's going to be run. But we'll take a look at the map. As you see, there's mostly middling pace through this field. So somebody is going to be in front, somebody who's not normally in front. And there's every chance that that could fall to a horse like Good Runner's Way, There are other possibilities, but I think having Zac Purton aboard, who has been the tactical master in the last 2 seasons in Hong Kong, is a really strong factor in the favour of Good Runner's Way. So our first tip of the new season in race 1, Good Runner's Way, is winning factor the jockey. Danny Shum is sure to have this horse wound up and ready to go. He finished last season in good form and comes with some residual fitness, but he also has the master tactician Zac Purton aboard, and that looks to be a key element in this race. So the second race we're going to take a look at is race 2, also a Class 5, the second race of the new season, and our winning factor here, the stable change. Now when we look across the field for this, there are quite a few horses that are going to catch the attention of punters, a wide range of possibilities. We've got some lightly raced horses dropping to Class 5 for the first time up the top of the weights, Blade Racer, Kwai Chong Elite. We've got Gowton of Garrow, who's been consistent, if a little disappointing in Class 4, and he finds Class 5 for the first time. Last season winners like Never Better, Golden Cannon, Majestic Endeavour, Rich City Fortune, all successful in Class 5 last term. And the horse we're most focused on here, a 20-start maiden, Adonis. And our focus on Adonis is also a focus on his trainer, Douglas White. Douglas saddling up his first runners as a trainer on Sunday. I think he's got prospects to win a race all day. Wouldn't surprise me to see him come away with more than one, to be honest. And he looks to have great prospects. But we're also going to look at the stable change in general. Now, this graphic requires a little bit of explanation, but the bottom line is that in the years where we have new trainers, obviously those trainers have a lot of stable changes, fixer-uppers normally from other stables, but you'll see on the right-hand side the strike rate for stable transfers generally in those seasons is above those where we don't have a new trainer. So stable changes in years where we have new trainers go up, and the strike rates go up normally with them. So something to watch out for throughout the season, but especially I think for Douglas White. Most people tipping him to be a very successful trainer, as he was a jockey in the saddle, and his first runners on Sunday carry plenty of interest, including Adonis, who, hasn't got the greatest record so far. But we're going to go back a couple of starts when he charged home for second. We go back to race number 723, and he got back in the field, as is normal for him, but he broke 22 seconds for his final 400 metres here, running second over the same course and distance in June. And you just don't see that many horses in Class 5 who can run those sectional times, even on a very fast track as that was that day. So that is an excellent guide. Adonis had some mixed fortunes after that in his next 2 starts, including his latest when he was a beaten favourite. But the change of yard is certainly very likely to benefit him. He's coming in here fresh. Douglas hasn't trialled him, but I like the look of his work, and I think he's going to get a race set up that will suit a horse running on at the finish. And we're going to have a look at the map here, and you'll see there's a fair bit of pace, and we've got horses like Rich City Fortune, Leisured Feet in particular, who generally press forward early, and there are a couple of others who could go with them, or at least be nuisance value for the pace. I think that means we get a solid tempo. Adonis, well, unless Douglas has managed to teach him how to jump out of the gates better than he normally has been, he's going to get back. But I do think that finishing speed is going to come into play over the final 100 metres. So our tip in race 2, Adonis, his winning factor, the stable change. Adonis comes in with good enough form to win the race. I think Douglas White will be very keen to get off the mark, and I think the race sets up well for him to swoop over the top of his rivals in the final stages. Well, that's it for the winning factor this week. Good luck on opening day. We'll see you next time.